morning, boys and girls. I'm Teacher Regan. Once again, welcome to Easy Learning, where learning is simplified. So this morning, we are continuing with our topic of divisibility. Divisibility test rules. So in our previous session, we had discussed the divisibilities of the first three numbers, that is 2, 3, and 4. And we stated the divisibility test rule of 2, and we said that a number is divisible by 2 if and only if the digit in the ones place value is 0, 2, what else did we say? 4, correct, 6, and 8. So that was the divisibility test rule of 2. Then we went ahead to give examples on how to, prove that a number is divisible by 2. And we said that you only need to consider the digit in the ones place value. So long as that digit is among the digits that we had identified, then that particular number is divisible by 2. We also discussed the divisibility test rule of 3, and we said that a number is divisible by 3 if and only if the sum of its individual digits is a multiple of 3. So all you do when you are given a number, whether it's a 4-digit number, a 5-digit number, simply add the digits, then get your sum. Once you have your sum, check whether that particular sum is a multiple of 3. Then you can say that that number is divisible by 3. Finally, we discussed the divisibility test rule of 4, and we said that for a number to be divisible by 4, then the number that is formed by the digit in the tens and ones place value must be a multiple of 4. So having said that, this morning I want us to discuss the divisibility test rule of 5, 6, and 8. The divisibility test rule of 5, 6, and 8. So we shall start with the divisibility test rule of 5. Divisibility test rule of 5. Who read ahead? Maybe you can tell us what is the divisibility. How do you know if a number is divisible by 5? Yes, Sharon? Oh, that's a good trial. So here, let us write here, we can say that a number is divisible by 5 if the digit in the ones place value, if the digit in the ones place value is 0 or 5. In other words, for a number to be divisible by 5, then that particular number must end with 0 or 5. For example, we can have as many numbers as possible. 22,395. The last digit is 5. Roman 2, you can have 1,040. The last digit is 0. Roman 3, you can have a number like 11,375. The last digit is 5. You can also have a number like 6,420. So long as the digit in the ones place value is 0 or 5, then that particular number is divisible by 5. The essence of doing this, you can get a question in exams that is asking you to select from the list given below, select the numbers that are completely divisible by 5. If that is the question, then I expect you to apply the divisibility test rule of that particular number, in this case 5, to answer that question. Do not go about it by long division method. That is a trial and error method, and that is not encouraged. Now that you have learned about the divisibility test rule of 5, just go ahead, pick out the digit in the ones place value. If it is 5 or 0, then that particular number is divisible by 5. Maybe a question for you. Which which numbers in the list below are completely divisible by 5. So you can have I'll use commas, you can have 1174, 2005, 4975, 6304, and 11,315. So from that list of numbers, use the concept of the divisibility test rule of 5 and pick out the numbers that are divisible by 5. I insist, ensure you apply the divisibility test rule. Do not go about it using the division method. If you go about it using long division method, whether your answer is right or wrong, then we'll assume that you are not applying since you are not applying the rule, we shall assume that your answer is wrong. Otherwise, that's done. I want us to quickly move and discuss the divisibility test rule of 6. Divisibility test rule. Divisibility test rule of 6. Any question on the divisibility test rule of 5? Actually, this is one of the simplest divisibility test rules to remember. You just have to consider the digit in the ones place value. So long as it is 0 or 5, then you are good to go. You conclude. Now, this is slightly complicated, but it's also very simple, of course, if you are keen. So let us state the rule. The rule. So we can say a number is divisible by 6. Divisible by 6 if that same number is divisible, I hope we are writing, is divisible by both 2 and 3. In other words, for a number to be divisible by 6, then that very number, assuming you have the number x, assuming you have the number, you have the number x. Then for the number x to be divisible by 6, then this same number must be divisible by both 2 and 3. In other words, you need to have conceptualized the divisibility test rule of 2 and the divisibility test rule of 3. Otherwise, you cannot go ahead to prove whether a number is divisible by 6. So in this case, you have to remind yourself of the divisibility test rule of 2. So who can tell us, who can remind us the divisibility test rule of 2? I just said that at the beginning of our session. Yes, Paul? That's correct. A number is divisible by 2 if the digit in the ones place value is 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. So you check that. You check that. For example, look at this number. Look at this number. You can have a number like 378. We want to check whether 378 is divisible by 6. And we have said that for this number to be divisible by 6, then it must be divisible by both 2 and 3. So let us start with the divisibility test rule of 2. How do you check that? Look at the digit in the ones place value. If it is 0, 2, 6, or 8, then this number is divisible by 2. So for 2, it has qualified. Then let us test the divisibility test rule of 3. The divisibility test rule of 3. What is the divisibility test rule of 3? Yes, Kevin? That's right. A number is divisible by 3 if the sum of its individual digits is a multiple of 3. So let us check if this number is actually divisible by 3. Let us check if this number is actually divisible by 3. So we have the number 378. How do you go about it? This implies that we are supposed to get the sum of the individual digits. Then whatever we get as the sum should be a multiple of 3 for that number to be divisible by 3. So 3 add 7, 10. 10 add 8, that is 18. And 18 is a multiple of 3. Therefore, the number is divisible by both 2 and 3. Then we say, since the number 378 is divisible by both 2 and 3, we can conclude that it is also divisible by 6. So in this case, you need to remember the divisibility test rule of 3 and 2. Technically, that is the divisibility test rule of 6. That is correct. So our next number is the digit 8. So let us discuss the divisibility test rule of 8. Then after that, we can have a look at some questions. Divisibility test rule of 8. Divisibility test rule of 8. Divisibility test rule of 8. So we can write a number x. Remember, a number can be made up of a single digit, or it can be a 5-digit number, a 10-digit number. So in as much as I'm using a single variable to denote my number, it doesn't mean that it's a single-digit number. So take note of that. So a number x is divisible by 8 if the number formed by the digits in the hundreds, tens, and ones place value is a multiple of 8 and or divisible by 8. So for a number x to be divisible by 8, then the number that is formed by the digits in the hundreds, tens, and ones place value must be a multiple of 8 or is divisible by 8. For example, we can look at a question or an example. For example, if you have a number like 6,224 and you want to check if this number is divisible by 8. If you go about it using the layman's method, you'll go through the usual division, long division method, which is not allowed as far as the divisibility test rules are concerned. So in this case, we are going to consider the number that is formed by the digits in the hundreds, tens, and ones place value. And what is the first digit here? So solution from the number, allow me to denote my number like that, above the digit, from the number above, the digits in the hundreds, tens, and ones place values are 2, 2, 4 respectively. Thus, therefore, our number is 224. So since this is a 3-digit number, you might not be able to decide straight away whether it's a multiple of 8. So at this juncture, you are allowed to go about it using the usual long division method because it's a 3-digit number. So we can check if it is completely divisible by 8. If this 3-digit number is completely divisible by 8, then the whole of the number, which is 6,224, is equally divisible by 8. So we have 224, 8. So we pair from the left-hand side. So 8 into 22, yes, Sharon? 2 times, correct? 2 times, you get 16. The remainder is 6. We drop the remaining digit to get 64. 8 into 64, yes, Nick? 8 times, correct? 8 times, giving us 64. 0, 0. So since, you write down there, since the number formed by the 3 digits, is divisible by 8, then 6,224 is also divisible by 8. So that is how you prove the divisibility test rule of 8. Any question? Any question? Okay, if you do not have a question, take the following questions down very fast. Take the following questions down very fast. Then we call it a session. Take the following questions down. They're just 2. You can get more later. Questions. Number 1. Which of the following numbers are divisible by 6? So Roman 1, we have 1,110. Roman 2, we have 1234. Roman 3, we have 6,224. Number 2, prove that the following numbers are divisible by 8. But A, you can have a number like 2,808. But B, you can have a number like 3,720. Yeah, that's all. So in the first instance, you're supposed to pick the numbers that are divisible by 6, and I expect you to do that by applying the divisibility test rule of the stated number or digit. In the second instance, the assumption is that both of the numbers could be divisible by 8, but we want you to show us using the divisibility test rule of 8, this one. Otherwise, if you do not have any further question, let us stop there. I'll see you next time.